Hi, good morning. How are you all? So, today, my topic of my video is the famous and landmark cases of Supreme Court. It's a very vast and a very big topic, but I thought I might as well make my video upon it. There are a few judgments which I've made a chronology, and I wanted to discuss it with you. So, let me start now. The Supreme Court, the first amendment in the Constitution was made in 1951, which was in State of Madras versus Champakan Durari Rajan. That is AIR 1951, Supreme Court 226. It was upon the fundamental rights, the caste system, reserved seats, and a writ of mandamus was passed for inequality in education, and the First Amendment in the Constitution was passed. Now, afterwards in 1962, there was this landmark and famous case of KM Nanavati versus State of Maharashtra. People must have could have seen the movie also. It was the Navy officer who had murdered Mr. Ahuja for infidelity upon his wife, and the wife was having three children. The supreme and there was a jury in this matter. The Supreme Court held upheld the conviction and life imprisonment of Nanavati, but later on, Mr. Ahuja's sister gave approval for the pardon of Nanavati. So this was a very very famous case of 1962. Then in 1967, a very, very famous case of Gokul Not versus State of Punjab came up, which was on takeover of family land and subsequent division. And it was upon violation of right to profession under Article 19F and G and 14, which was upheld by the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court held that if the Parliament curtails fundamental rights, such powers shall be declared null and void. Now, the most important and the most famous judgment of all constitution lovers, constitution law lovers, and lawyers is Keswanand Bharti versus State of Kerala. It was upon Article 368 on fundamental rights, and whereby the 24th, 25th, and 29th Amendment of 1971 were curtailed down, and it was it declared as illegal, as the Supreme Court held that Parliament does not have unlimited powers to make amendments while curtailing fundamental rights. Now came 1976 when the emergency had started, and in 1976 ADM Jabalpur versus Sivakant Shukla, it is also famously called as Habeas Corpus case, where the petition was filed, a habeas corpus petition was filed, but to the dismay of the citizens and the persons fighting for their life and liberty, it was held by Supreme Court that right to arrest, there was a right to arrest, detention, and propagation of reasonable apprehension. The Supreme Court said it cannot entertain habeas corpus in national emergency. Now, in 1978, the famous case of Menaka Gandhi versus Union of India came up. The Passport Act, Article 14, Article 19, Article 21 were challenged. This is also a very, very famous case for right to travel, and held that her fundamental rights and were infringed, and therefore she was given relief by the Supreme Court in 1978. And now in 1980, Minerva Mills versus Union of India. This is a landmark case on basic structure of the Constitution, where 42nd Amendment was held unconstitutional. It said Parliament does not have unlimited powers to amend the Constitution if it destroys the fundamental rights of right to equality and liberty. So again, Supreme Court came to the rescue. Now in 1981, this is also a very, very famous judgment, SP Gupta versus Union of India. It was on correspondence related to transfer of some judges, and state sought protection of privileged communication. But Supreme Court held otherwise and said that they were not privileged documents under the Evidence Act. Now, in 1985, again a famous and landmark judgment came in Olga Teles versus Bombay Municipal Corporation, where some slum dwellers had moved this petition saying that Bombay Municipal Corporation had, in fact, uh, been given them an eviction notice, which was challenged in the Supreme Court petition. And the Supreme Court said, gave 1 month's time, 1 month's notice to the slum dwellers to evict the premises. Now, another very, very famous case on caste system and reserve seats came in 1992 in Indra Sane versus Union of India. 2,399 castes were declared as educationally and socially backward. This is a very, very landmark case on the reservations, which is often a topic of dispute between the general and the lower caste. And the reservations in education, this is on reservation in jobs and employment. Now in 1997, this is also a very, very big landmark judgment, which is on Vishakha versus State of Rajasthan. Vishakha guidelines are still used by all the courts with regard to sexual violence, sexual assault in workplace, outraging modesty of a woman, rape. So Vishakha guidelines are still used. This is a 1997 judgment. Now in 2003, Best Bakery case happened, where in Gujarat riots had happened and 14 people were burnt alive, but and 21 persons were acquitted by the courts. But Supreme Court ordered retrial, and 5 persons were convicted after the orders of the Supreme Court. And this is also a very, very famous case. Now, 2006 was a very dynamic year. Rameshwar Prasad judgment came, and as we commonly say, horse trading, or we say, the person has won an election but joined some other party. So, this was on election disputes and post elections alignment and dissolution of assembly. The Supreme Court said in Rameshwar Prasad versus State of Bihar in 2006 that dissolution was unconstitutional. So even now, this judgment is being used by the lawyers with regard to election disputes. Now, again in 2006, Priyadarshini Mattu case came up, Jessica murder case came up. In 2008, Arushi Talwar case came up. In 2009, Nithari serial murder case came up. And in 2012, Ajmal Kasab case came up, which everybody knows on 26/11. So now this was the brief history of judgments made by upheld, or the Supreme Court has come to the rescue and passed a fair order so that everybody has the right to life and liberty and livelihood, and upheld the fundamental rights of the citizens of India. So now the latest judgments which have been passed by Supreme Court are in that they have given clean chit to Mr. Narendra Modi in Rafale case and the Gujarat riots case. He has got a clean chit. Then the Nas Foundation case has also been Nas Foundation case has also been passed by the Supreme Court. Then there is Vijay Mallya's case, which has been ordered by the Supreme Court. And lastly, but not the least, the latest famous landmark case of the Supreme Court is in Ram Mandir Ayodhya case. A lot of people call it a land dispute, but I would say that legally, an idol can, under the Hindu law, an idol is the owner of a land, and the Supreme Court has rightly ordered in that case as well. So this was a brief history of the Constitution. As we say, evidence is the father of law and Constitution is the grandfather of law. So it could be helpful for any person to know what the courts do normally since 1950. There are various other many big judgments which have been passed, but this was just in a nutshell. I hope this is a useful video for you all. Thank you so much. Stay home, stay safe. This is a time of global pandemic, and I hope that you take care of yourself. And if there is any derogation, if somebody feels that his fundamental right has been infringed through these judgments, I hope that one gets the confidence to assert their rights in the court of law. Thank you. Have a very, very good day. Thank you.